Yellowstone National Park is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It has geysers, hot springs, canyons, wildlife, glaciers, rivers, lakes, forests, mountains, and more. For these reasons, it is also one of the most popular national parks in the world. In 2021, over 4 million people visited Yellowstone. But what if that all changed? What if Yellowstone, one of the world's largest supervolcanoes, erupted? In this video, we will discuss the impact an eruption would have on tourism at Yellowstone and if tourism would ever recover. If you've never heard of Yellowstone or don't know much about its supervolcano, here's a quick summary. Yellowstone sits atop a magma chamber which is constantly producing magma. This magma produces heat that feeds geothermal features such as geysers and hot springs. Every once in a while, some of this magma makes its way up the magma chamber and new rock is created. This is how Yellowstone has grown to be the massive volcano it is today. While it hasn't erupted in over 640,000 years, it did erupt 3 times in the past 2.1 million years. These eruptions were so large that they affected the whole world, causing ice ages. Some scientists even think that the last ice age was caused by a small eruption at Yellowstone. The next eruption won't be anytime soon though. Scientists say there's a 1 in 730,000 chance that it will erupt in the next 10,000 years. However, if it does erupt, it will be catastrophic. There are 3 different calderas within the park itself: the Norris, the Willow Park, and the Yellowstone caldera. All 3 are considered active. Most of the park is a dormant magma chamber that scientists believe will be the site of the next eruption. When it erupts, the entire park will be destroyed. The forest, the animals, everything will be gone. So what happens to the park after it erupts? Yellowstone is a very special place. Because of this, there are laws protecting the land from human exploitation. If Yellowstone were to erupt tomorrow, no one could turn the land into a gold mine or strip mine it for coal. The land would simply sit there untouched until something happened to it naturally. Humans do have the ability to speed up this process. The first thing that would happen to Yellowstone after it erupted is that the government would take control of it. The military would move in and establish a secure zone around the caldera. No one would be allowed in or out of the area without permission. This is because the area surrounding the volcano would be heavily irradiated due to all of the radioactive materials released into the atmosphere. Nobody would be able to live in the area for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So the government would essentially hold the land until it was safe again. In the meantime, they would bring in scientists who would begin cleaning up the mess. The ash cloud that resulted from the eruption would be blocking sunlight from reaching the Earth's surface. This would lead to temperatures dropping worldwide. And if the cloud were to block enough sunlight, it could lead to another ice age. So one of the first things that scientists would try to do is dissipate the ash cloud. They would try to do this by creating artificial volcanoes. Artificial volcanoes would also help with the global cooling effect that was caused by the eruption. There's only one problem with this plan though: it would take decades, if not centuries, for it to work. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of tons of ash and debris floating around in the atmosphere. Even if we put all of our resources towards this project, it would still take a long time. As you can imagine, during this time period, no tourists would be allowed into Yellowstone. In fact, no one would be allowed into the area for many years. The government wouldn't want people looting the abandoned park or setting up settlements in the area. They would also be worried about the safety of those who entered the area. Radiation would still be high, and there would be a risk of radioactive hotspots. The government wouldn't want to deal with people getting sick or dying from radiation poisoning inside the park. So let's say that you were around in the years following the eruption, and you waited patiently for the day when the park would reopen. It finally happens. The government announces that the park will reopen to the public. Would you go? Let's say that you didn't care about the radiation or the toxic air, and you still wanted to visit Yellowstone. You wouldn't be able to because no roads would lead to the park. Before the eruption, 2 major highways led to the park. US Route 89 ran along the east side of the park, while US Route 191 ran along the west side. Both of these roads would be destroyed during the eruption. In fact, all roads leading to the park would be destroyed. The eruption would also destroy all of the buildings inside the park, including the historic Old Faithful Inn. Without roads or buildings, there would literally be nothing to see. So you wouldn't be able to visit any of the geysers, hot springs, canyons, rivers, lakes, forests, mountains, or anything else. You might be able to see the caldera where the new magma chamber will form, but other than that, there would be nothing to do but hike. When I say that there would be nothing left to see, I mean it. All of the wildlife would be gone. Mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish would all be extinct within the park boundaries. The forests would be gone and all of the trees would be dead. All of the plants would die off due to the lack of sunlight and heat. So Yellowstone wouldn't look like a park anymore. It would just be a barren wasteland. The only living things that would survive would be bacteria and other microorganisms. Even if the government were to replace the trees and repopulate the park with animals, it wouldn't be the same. A new ecosystem would develop. New species would evolve to fill the niches of the ones that went extinct, so the Yellowstone that you knew before the eruption would be gone forever. This means that the park wouldn't be able to reopen even if the government wanted to. There wouldn't be any infrastructure, no buildings or roads, nothing. Rebuilding all of this would take years. And then there's the matter of funding. Who would pay for it? The eruption would devastate the economy of the area. Thousands of people would lose their jobs. The towns surrounding the park would be abandoned, and the local economies would collapse. It's unlikely that the federal government would come in and save the day. They would likely leave the land alone until it was able to sustain life once again. So let's fast forward several hundred years into the future. The land has been reclaimed by nature. Plants and animals have returned and the ecosystem is thriving. Perhaps there are even new species that have evolved since the old ones went extinct. The federal government reopens Yellowstone to the public. Would you visit, maybe? As time goes on, more and more people will be willing to visit the park. At first, these visitors would likely be thrill seekers and scientists. Thrill seekers would want to see the damage that was done to the park, while scientists would be studying the new ecosystem. Over time though, regular people will start visiting the park again. Families will take vacations to Yellowstone, couples will go there for honeymoons, and adventure seekers will go there to hike and camp. However, tourism will never return to what it once was. The park's infrastructure will never be replaced. They might build a few new buildings and repair some of the old ones, but it'll never be like it was before. The reason for this is that the park will be known as a disaster area. It will be known as the place where thousands of people died, where entire ecosystems were wiped out, and where the world was covered in ash. No amount of money will be able to change that. Eventually, Yellowstone National Park will become a shadow of its former self. It will be a park that no one wants to visit, a park that no one cares about. In a way, it will be the forgotten park. But what about the people who lost their jobs because of the eruption? Well, they probably won't be able to find new jobs in the area. The local economies will struggle to recover. Businesses will have to downsize and some might even go bankrupt. The towns surrounding the park will become ghost towns. People won't want to live in the shadow of the disaster area. Now some of you might be thinking that I am exaggerating, however, I am not. I am telling you exactly what happened to the town of Pompeii. 2,000 years ago, Mount Vesuvius erupted, destroying the Roman city of Pompeii. The eruption killed thousands of people and buried the city in ash. Over time, people began to rebuild, but as the centuries passed, they avoided the area because it was known as the place where thousands of people died. To this day, no one lives in Pompeii. Only tourists who want to see the ruins visit the city each year. Yellowstone is a beautiful place, but if it were to erupt, it would be completely destroyed. It would be a disaster unlike anything we have ever seen before. And while we may be able to rebuild the park someday, it would never be the same. Tourism would never return to what it once was. But what do you think? Would you visit Yellowstone after it erupted? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.